in the aughts, and probably prior to this, it was basically taken as gospel by the classical economists that it was almost impossible. Like, you could not get under a 5% unemployment rate. Just couldn't do it. It was the natural unemployment rate. You couldn't get under that. That's what we were told. And now we're being told that the unemployment rate is a problem because it's so low, based upon inflation, which it is now increasingly clear was a function of, well, let's play this clip. But we know that inflation was a function of, at this point.
More and more people are saying, even the New York Times and Wall Street Journal are saying,
these lefties, that it was a function of, first, our logistics problems that we had following COVID. Also, massive profiteering, essentially, by corporations.
And logistics problem also mean middlemen get their beaks wet.
Yeah, I mean, people are going to make money when the things go sideways, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there has to be inflation. But logistics problems were problems, without a doubt. But then it just became essentially also a function of corporate profit taking, and to some extent, an increase in wages. We had 1 million less people in the workforce, maybe 500,000 less because they died. And then maybe some who took early retirement because out of COVID, they couldn't get back into work. And so wages increased to some extent. That added to it, but not very much, relatively speaking. I mean, I think about somewhere between 55, 60% and 80% is a function of logistics and of corporate profit taking.
Right.
But this is the standard economist line on CNBC.
Fed has two things with the banks. One is, are the banks going to affect the economy and inflation? Absolutely, they need to take that into account. Right now, that credit crunch is looking like it might be a little bit less bad than we feared a month or two ago. Part of the reason why I think we need these rate increases. The second is, what's the impact of their policy on the banks? I think where they mess up the banks is when they lose control of inflation over a sustained period of time.
What do you think the unemployment rate needs to look like in the United States to become, quote, stable?
I don't know. Look, if you want to get inflation to 2.0, I think you need an unemployment rate in the sixes.
In the sixes?
If you want to get to 2.0.
Okay, hold on. That's big. That's a massive shift from where we are today.
Right. I don't think we need to be at 2.0, though. I think if the Fed gets to 2.99.
Okay, but to get to 2.99, do we need to be at 4.5? Do we need to be at 4? What is that in your mind?
I would guess around 4.5 to 5. And these things are super hard to control.
And is that politically palatable?
I mean, that's why we have central banks, is to make tough choices. They haven't, the inflation mandate helped our economy over a period of decades. The idea that we just sort of give up and say we're fine at 4.5% inflation.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying these, to me, underneath it, that's the fundamental issue, right?
Yeah.
Because what you need to do is cause massive, not massive, but on a relative basis, what would feel like massive unemployment.
There's no supply side way to do this without. It seems like an unwieldy.
I'm sure you'd love to try tax cuts as a way to bring inflation
less
down.
Regulation,
which maybe you could find a Democrat and do big infrastructure spending. So you could do tax cuts, infrastructure spending. To bring
all those things are inflationary.
That's just not how it. That's not how it works.
It's all and when you have higher interest rates, you can't start businesses. Entrepreneurs have a harder time providing the jobs that you need. You need more jobs, or more people to go into the jobs. You need the people to start businesses.
Right. Look, we need more supply, but supply is slow. We do not have any lever that can raise supply by a lot on a 2-year time horizon. The only lever we have is demand.
Like we use a bazooka when we should have it like a dart. For what we want to do.
I mean, the longer you wait, the bigger that bazooka is. I mean, the whole point
That's
of going
if you believe
earlier,
we're like in the 70s, and I just don't think.
Well, we don't have.
You thought it was energy. You thought it was energy.
No one's
and supply chain and pandemic reopening.
No one's here talking about raising interest rates by 10%.
You don't think it was from overspending for the past 2 years either. That's not what caused it.
That it was overspending. it was the Fed, and it was some bad luck. They all combined. Regardless of the cause, we are where we are now. And the longer we wait, the more that unemployment we're going to need, the bigger the bazooka we're going to need. That's what they need to try to avoid.
First of all, I love the casualness in which he said, 4.5, because really what we're talking about is 500,000 to 1 million people losing their jobs. Yeah. Just so when he's talking about half a point.
Well, we're at 3.7 now, and that's 6.1 million people unemployed.
And so the idea that, first off, you like the way that he frames it here, because he's basically saying he knows that the Fed's target is 2%. So he says, well, you don't really have to get it to 2%. But he's speaking as if it is absolutely necessary to drive this unemployment number up to control inflation. Although the unemployment rate has not gone up and inflation has gone down. How is that possible? How is that possible? And we have yet to see corporate profits go down. How about you need to have corporate profits go down? And the way that you can do that, there's really two different ways. One is a windfall profits tax to stop the price gouging. And the other is price controls. Now, of course, the last time we had price controls in this country was by Richard Nixon, Republican president. None of that is even discussed whatsoever. I don't know if they've ever even said those words on that network. But because they want to make it seem like it's completely out of the realm of possibility. But if that's the issue, there are tools in your tools box that are sitting there, rusty, that have worked in the past. But they won't do that. It really is impressive. I think that guy is he from the Pete Peterson Foundation? Is he?
Furman?
Yeah.
He's a Harvard economist now. He was the former, I think, a CEA guy or Council for Economic Advisors guy for Obama. Just not sure exactly.
I don't think he's
NEC director at National Economic Council. Yep, Peterson Institute.
I don't know if that's the Pete Peterson one. Yeah, I imagine it probably was. Peterson, of course, was
non-resident senior fellow at the Peterson Institute for International Economics as well.
I don't know if that's the same place, but Pete Peterson was a huge fan of cutting Social Security.
Go figure.